Welcome to the Heart-Led Business Show, where compassion meets commerce and leaders lead with love. Join your host, Tom Jacobs, as he delves into the insightful conversations with visionary business leaders who defy the status quo, putting humanity first and profit second. From heartfelt strategies to inspiring stories, this podcast is your compass in the world of conscious capitalism. So buckle up and let your heart guide your business journey.
Welcome back to the Heart-Led Business Show, where passion meets purpose. And today we have the incredible Conrad Sanchez in the spotlight. With a master's in kinesiology and a treasure trove of certifications, Conrad's not just flexing muscles, he's shaping hearts and minds. So join us as he shares his journey in the world of WBEMS, and we'll learn a little bit more about what that means and how his heart-led approach has transformed both clients and trainers alike. So get ready to feel the beat of success. And Conrad, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing introduction. I need to write that down as a slogan. Thank you.
I'll send it over to you. It's awesome. I'm glad to speak to a fellow trainer and fitness pro. As everybody knows, I was in that industry for 15 years. So it's always fun to geek out with other trainers. So I'm excited to have you on the show. And the first question, though, I always ask is, what's your definition of a heart-led business?
It's a very good question. So to me, it's always been what fulfills me, right? What fills a core wound, what makes me smile, what small victories do I like to celebrate? And I found this in the fitness industry. I wasn't always in the fitness industry. I was in finance for a little bit. I was an executive assistant to a billionaire for a little bit. And I always knew I wanted to help people, and so I was always driven towards customer service type jobs. But it's not until I found fitness that I really found a purpose. And then the heart part comes in when I'm able to help someone, knowingly that they like. It's one thing to help someone lose 5 pounds, but it's very different to help someone lose 5 pounds and they have diabetes and they have a knee injury and they have a shoulder impingement and all these other ailments that most uneducated trainers would not know how to navigate or stay away from. And I saw these things as like problems that needed to be solved, just like a little puzzle. There's nothing wrong with the person. And the fulfillment that it gave me was incredible to see someone like, I never thought I was going to be able to do this, and now I can. So to me, it filled my heart to be in the presence of these things on a daily basis.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that's really, I hear that over and over again on the show too, from other business owners, that it's that purpose and that drive. And it's just fun to wake up in the morning and do work, which a lot of people don't get to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So the passion there is like you get to do something new. Like, of course, there's challenges with this industry, with any job, there are going to be challenges, but the actual job that is to train the person, I find that incredibly fulfilling.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I did too. That was always very fun. The problem solving too, that was my superpower as well. Sounds like that's your superpower, is just get those tough cases where you just want to help that person as much as possible. And it's like, you have an ankle injury, you have a shoulder injury, and it's okay, what are we going to do today? And it's always fun.
Exactly. Yeah. And then if you're able to find a solution, it is incredibly fulfilling for the other person as well. And so you asked about heart-led, like what does it mean to be heart-led? But there's my heart, but there's also the heart of the client, and the heart of the client gets improved or gets fulfilled as well because they are getting what they want.
Yeah, no, that's great too. I haven't heard that from a guest yet. That connection heart to heart with your clients too, and especially in the personal training industry where it is very personal as well. That definitely comes into play. I would love to dive a little bit deeper into your transition from working for other people and working for a company and even the billionaire to owning your own business, because that's quite a shift. So tell me kind of how that happened for you.
I mean, it was incredibly scary, but what inspired me actually was when I was working for the billionaire. I was an executive assistant, so all professional stuff. And I was working 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. in a hotel room and never saw anything else in a 5-star hotel room, but it was still a hotel room. But in running into meetings and things like that, I would catch the personal trainer that traveled also with us.
Huh.
And the personal trainer was in a bathing suit, just flirting with staff. And I was like, how, where you never work. Sometimes I have to train him, and then he brings his wife. I have to train her too, and then maybe her daughter. And so your worst day is a 3-hour day, and you're complaining about it. And I need to be you. And so that's what inspired me to be like, oh, this is an actual job. Like personal training is an actual job. I saw personal trainers at the gym, but like I never thought twice about it. And then I was always athletic. I played basketball my life and all this stuff. When I met him, and I was like, what do I need to do to be a personal trainer? And then I got educated, and that's where how I transitioned. And so then working with people to working alone. I didn't initially start as a solo personal trainer. I started working at a gym like traditional trainers typically do, but very quickly the school I went to, my instructor at the school or the teacher at the school was forming a small personal training team. And she had a lot of vision, but lacked like the follow through and operations side of things. And I was pretty good at like scheduling and all these things. And so I became the manager for the company, and then I continued my journey.
Okay. Oh, nice. So, well, how did you prepare to transition from the day-to-day, the 9 to 5, 6 to 11 job that you had into then your own business? What was that journey like, or transition?
So it was very brutal. I got laid off from the executive assistant job, which
Oh no.
I got a severance package, even though I had only been there for a year. And I used that money for personal training school. And the personal training school was 3 months long. Okay. It was full time, 3 months long. In the meantime, I was interviewing for office jobs. I thought personal training is going to be my weekend, evenings, mornings thing, but I'm still going to have a 9 to 5. Like you can't survive in this country without health insurance and all these things. And I got a job. I got a job as an office manager for a tequila company. Random, but a very high-end tequila company. And after 2 weeks at sitting at a desk for 8 hours, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I had started personal training on the weekend, and I was like, this makes me so much happier. And I'm standing and I'm active and I'm helping people. And then I went to my job and I was miserable. So 2 weeks later, I was like, I quit. And because I already had somewhat of built hours into the gym, I thought I just need to expend these hours. And so that was the transition, but it was not an easy choice or anything. Like I was also young, and I thought, let me just do it. If I'm not going to do it now, like I'm going to have back problems. And I started seeing clients, and that's what made me realize that you have an office job and you have all these ailments. I cannot go this route.
Yeah, that's we could go all days of talking about office work and how unhealthy that can be for people. Yeah. So when you made the transition, so that's a pretty quick transition, like 2 weeks from that's pretty quick. I took a year.
Yeah, and to each their journey. You have to be ready for it or not. And I don't know if I was ready, but I made the jump.
Yeah. So then once you started the business, how did that change over time to where you are today?
So the company, it was based in Brooklyn in New York, and we went to people's houses, and I was managing part of the company, like the operations side of it, and training people at the same time. And then after a few years of doing that, I was starting to bump heads with the direction of the company. The owner wanted to keep it to going to people's houses, and I thought we needed to go into like more of a facility or a space to offer classes and things like that. And so then we split up, and I took clients, and we negotiated what clients I would take and not. And so then I was fully booked. I was pushing actually more corporate wellness. So back to the corporations, I was going to a company and staying there for 4 hours and training like back to back a couple times a week. But then I decided to get a master's in kinesiology, and I wanted to further my education. And when I enrolled in the master's degree, that's when I decided I need to hire people to unload some of my clients. And so I hired 2 trainers, and I started giving them. And so then it became a business. And this was in New York. And I was getting my master's. I was still training people. And then I had 2 trainers also training people. And then I got involved with a company that operated and designed private gyms for commercial buildings. So there was a big push in New York for commercial buildings to create social spaces, so pool tables and this and that, and always had a gym. And so how do you activate this gym? It's one thing to put equipment and then call it a gym. And it's a different thing to have a gym with activities and trainers and classes and so on. And so I worked with that company for a while. And then COVID hit. But right before COVID, I met a French investor that had a franchise in Brazil of this WBEMS, which stands for Whole Body Electro Muscle Stimulation, short EMS. And he was looking for a head trainer to spearhead a little bit this franchise, to recreate the franchise in the US. And I knew nothing about EMS. I remember Bruce Lee with the electrodes on the movie Enter the Dragon. Like he has like electrodes on his abs, and he's like writing his book. I'm doing like 200 push-ups right now. And I thought, but this is a gimmick. Like that movie is so old that like this has never entered the mainstream. And he was like, listen, just try it and then let me know what you think. And I tried it. And so what it is, you wear a suit, a vest, and it has pants, and it has electrodes on all the major muscle groups. And you go through a 20-minute workout. So it's very short. No weights or barely any weights, like 3 pounds, 5 pounds, just to guide the movements. It's a 20-minute workout. And when I did it, at first I thought, I don't feel much. Like this felt like a bit like a warm-up, like a long warm-up.
Right.
But then my glutes were sore for 5 days.
Oh my gosh.
I was very sore, and I thought, okay, this actually works. And then I started getting more and more educated into EMS, and I saw the potential of how it can circumvent a lot of obstacles that a lot of my clients were facing. One, not enough time to train, injuries, pains, aches, and not being able to move through full ranges of motion. And I thought EMS can get them stronger, faster. Not just faster because it's 20 minutes, but faster because it targets type 2 muscle fibers, so strength muscle fibers from the first session on. And whereas traditional training, you have to start at light reps, lightweight, high reps, and then progress to heavier sets. And this, to me, was like, this is solving so many issues, and it is ideal for my clients.
Yeah. And are you still going in home with your business, or do you have a brick and mortar?
Yeah. So during COVID, I moved out of New York, and I live now in LA, and I go to people's houses with the equipment. I only need the suits. Some people have gyms in their houses. Some people have some weights, but there's no requirement to have a lot of equipment. I use bands and small accessories. And so I go to people's houses. Now, ideally, this is the easiest way to just start, right? Because you can charge a high premium, go to people's houses, and there's no overhead. But ideally, to scale a business like this, you need brick and mortar. But I am not going that direction either. I am going in the direction of educating other trainers on EMS. There are not a lot of, we're only a handful of EMS trainers that have been doing this for this long, and they have this amount of knowledge in this niche industry in the entire country. I'm lucky enough to be one of them, and I just want to provide more education and teach other trainers how to properly program with EMS, which is a whole thing on its own.
Yeah. So when you do the training, is there then you sell the franchise to them as well, or is that business?
It's just an education service. So I train clients, and then I can give workshops, and then I do also offer a business consulting if a business wanted to get into EMS. Recently, there was a Pilates studio that wanted to add EMS as a service. And so where do they start? Where do you get educated? And so I trained their head trainer, give them a workshop, and went through a lot of practice in order for them to get going and get clients and so on. So there's business consulting, there's the education portion, and then there's my personal clients.
Okay. So any desire to sell the suits or do?
No, I'm very good friends with one of the distributors here in LA. Her name is Darcy, and she's a great EMS trainer as well. And so she's a distributor for the suits that I use. And so we have a good relationship to give business to each other.
Yeah. Oh, nice. That's very cool. Yeah. The home training, I had lots of friends that did in-home training, and it just, I was always like, oh my gosh, what a hassle to take the weights or the kettlebells and bring a suit and a couple dumbbells and we're good to go.
Yeah, it circumvents the problem of equipment, right? And because equipment, if you do a good job, the person is going to progress and they're going to need more equipment or higher, right? Like you go from 30 pounds to 35, then 40, and then you're going to, when does it end? Then you're forcing your client to basically get a gym in their house.
Yeah.
Here, there's no necessity.
That's great. And so with your business now, as it's growing, are you still adding more trainers, and how's that working for you?
Oh, so I mentioned Darcy, the distributor. We're talking now about potentially creating a team because we get referrals, and I'm in at the point where I can maybe take one more client, but like that is it. I'm relying on people being on vacation to be able to fit everybody. And so as we get more referrals, like she's in the same position. What do we do with these referrals? We're just giving them away to other trainers, and there's no business there to be made. And so we're now thinking that maybe we should create another separate company to do in-home training and have trainers, or maybe it's at an office, or because with EMS, you don't need a full gym. So you could rent just a small office space and have two people training concurrently.
Yeah. That's so flexible. Yeah, it's great. I wish I had that instead of my 6,000 square foot facility and the rent that went along with that. Yeah, that's crazy.
But you sold your business, right?
Yeah, I sold it in 2018. Yeah, and it's still open, and the new owners are doing great with it, which is always fun to see. So, how do you balance then the purpose-driven business and the heart-led business, and still making a profit and asking for money and doing it on the business side? Because a lot of heart-led business owners don't really like the business side. They like the part where they get to give their heart to their clients, but it's that business side that they really struggle with. So how do you balance both of those?
Yeah. So luckily I came from the business and then went into my heart. And so I do have some sense of, I'm going to call it discipline, I guess, of, okay, I need to sit down and do my taxes, and I need to sit down and organize this, and I need to figure out a new scheduling system and all these things. And so that has do it because I know I have to, but also it was also ingrained. It was like a no-brainer that you have to do these things, and I didn't think twice about doing them. But there are challenges. I don't want to do these things. And so when possible, you can try to outsource these things. Like the website, I did not create on my own. I didn't want to try to figure out how to use Webflow and so on. And I hired someone. And so if you're able to hire, like everything's either time or money. So it's either going to cost you money or it's going to cost you time. And so it's a matter of distinguishing between those two things and what can you afford in terms of time or in terms of money. And so challenging, but for the most part, I had already some momentum into doing these things on my own.
Yeah, that's good. Especially coming out of the corporate and the business and going into your own business as well. That usually helps with the business part and the running of the business as well. Yeah, that's cool. So how do you, speaking of the business side of the business, are there tasks that you do that you actually bring you joy that's part of the business part of it?
Yeah, actually. So one thing that I started doing is blogging, which I'm not a writer. English is not my first language either, if you can hear in my accent. But I started writing. Like I was always a little creative, and I liked drawing, and I started writing specifically about EMS, which is something that I'm passionate about because I know it has a purpose. Again, back to the heart, right? Like I wouldn't do anything anymore where my heart is not really in it. And I wanted to doing podcasts, like just the challenge with EMS, I know this is probably a later question, but the challenge with EMS is telling people about it because they don't know about it. Yeah. And so how do I sell a service that people have not even heard of? And so that's the main challenge. And so creatively, I thought, okay, I need to blog about it. I need to be on podcasts. I need to just get information out there. And the writing part was fun. It is fun. It is not fun to then have to post it on LinkedIn and this and that. But in creating covers for the blog or so on, I do take pleasure in these things.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and that's nice that gives you that creative outlet as well, instead of just all business all the time as well. That's awesome. How are you getting the word out or educating people about EMS and the benefits of it?
social media. It is the sort of like of the portal. I have a website. Unless you know what the website is, you won't find it. And social media, I started. So with the podcast, it's giving me clips that then I can share. And so I cut out snippets. And what has been happening is that other EMS trainers have been also sharing my clips. And so just getting more information. Not every EMS trainer is trying to spread the word, especially in Europe. EMS is pretty prevalent. Like people know about it. There's EMS studios at every corner in Germany and so on. You don't need to explain what yoga is, right? Like you see a studio, you can imagine what it is. So EMS in Europe is at that point. Here in the US, it is far from that, but it's starting to trickle down. I've been doing it now for 6 years, and now I'm starting to meet people that are like, I heard of it, or I did it once, so that is starting to happen. But I've had the question of if it's so effective, if it's so good, blah, 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 like why isn't this more mainstream? And the example I always give is that pickleball is successful and as widespread as it is now in the US. The first official tournament was in 1975. So it took 50 years to get to this point.
Oh, I didn't even realize pickleball was that old.
And tournament, I'm not saying like when it was created, like tournament means that already there were enough people playing it to create a tournament.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's a great analogy too, because as trends in the fitness industry has always been kind of a ripe for kind of those fatty type of things that come and go, but the real tried and true, like real technology that's being advanced, a lot of people just aren't aware of that, especially in the States. Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you're getting the word out on that, because I think the research that I've done, and I've seen some of the conferences I went to when I had the gym, there was EMS training and facilities as well. So it was always on my radar, but I just never had it in my gym quite frequently, actually. And my brother lives there. Oh, there quite often. Cool. So how can people learn more about what you're doing and get in contact with you, Conrad?
Yeah, my website and the name of my company, very original name, is ConradEMSFitness.com. So ConradEMSFitness.com, and I'm on social media as @ConradFitness.
Awesome. Cool. And we'll link all that up in the show notes so people can get to that very easily as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your experience of your heart-led business and how you navigate the business part. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the questions. Very good questions.
Awesome. And thank you, listeners, for listening and watching the show today. I really certainly appreciate that. And please make sure that you're checking out everything that Conrad is doing. We're going to put all of those links up into the show notes, so make sure you check that out. And if you could do me a solid favor, and that's to give the show a rating and review, that does help spread the word about the show and helping other entrepreneurs who might want to have their heart-led business out there. Until next time, lead with your heart.
You've been listening to the Heart-Led Business Show, hosted by Tom Jacobs. Join us next time for another inspiring journey into the heart of business.